Hello, hello, hello. It's so good to have this camera back because I'm back to babbling. Tonight, I want to talk to you all about two things about INTPs. I keep thinking I've come to the end of my processing, and then I think it's something else. Two things I wanted to cover are the concept of integrity and the issue of introversion in INTPs and how that shapes. The first thing that's interesting to me is concept of morality and integrity. I feel like there's a conception that thinkers as a whole, especially intuitive thinkers, are more willing to be sociopathic or immoral, or amoral, as the case may be. That somehow, because we process things logically, we must then deviate from the general social mores, especially as intuitive thinkers, that we process logically and we make intuitive leaps that are unbounded by society's own conceptions. And I think to some extent that's true, but I think it's carried too far. One thing I've noticed about intuitive thinkers is, although we do not speak in terms of morality or necessarily ethics, we speak in a great concept of integrity, of somehow being ourselves and holding ourselves accountable. That although our code may not be in sync with society as a whole, that our priorities may differ, we hold ourselves very stringently to the codes we do set. And I think that is where the difference comes in between being truly sociopathic and completely detached from society's expectations and one's own expectations, and where the thinkers come in. I have an interesting thought that somehow a lot of the more romantic notions of honor and integrity come from thinkers, although they've been romanticized into very much of a feeler's wet dream of, knight in shining armor. Most of the codes come from a very cold, logical perspective, and were, I believe, ultimately driven from a thinker's concept. The whole concept of honorability, protecting the weak, defending what is yours from outsiders, is a very logical prospect. The concept of defending the weak that you need to survive is only a logical prospect, and the concept of defending what is yours from outsiders is, well, ultimately selfish. And yet, we've wrapped it all up into this chivalrous bow and slapped on shining armor, and suddenly it's in paintings and Arthurian legend. But really, that whole concept of being true to oneself and true to one's vows is, to me, very much of a thinker's mindset, that we hold deeply to whatever our truth may be, and we do not detach from it very easily, because we know it to be true. And it leads to an interesting conflict, because it's not always convenient. And I gotta say, from my perspective, something not being convenient is a major hardship. I tend to go for the convenient route and things, but there is somehow something deep inside me that tells me, although a certain action may not be convenient, it is what I must do. It is not about some outside vow that I have made. It's about somehow I could not be myself were I not to do this. If I did not do this, I would be an anathema to me and to the person I have set myself out to be. So it's an interesting concept of ethics, and it's very different from what most people would view. But I think people need to realize that a lot of intuitive thinkers do process it that way. That although our code may be different, and may in many cases be unspoken even to ourselves, we have a deep sense of integrity and credibility that we hold on to in the outside world. I feel like it's down to the concept of competence, that we must be competent to the truth that we know. We must hold ourselves to the truth that we know. Otherwise, we will be in error. And there is nothing worse, to my mind, than being wrong, than being false and in error. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the concept of introversion and extroversion. Because what's interesting to me is, although I am an introvert, I am in no way shy. That I tend to be the gadfly in most social situations. I'm the one who shouts that the emperor has no clothes. I am not a shy person, and I say what I believe, regardless of its popularity. But I think the issue of being introverted is often tied in with shyness, and the two are very much separate. I am introverted because I can only stand so long in other people's presences before I need to step back and rest and rejuvenate myself by doing things that I enjoy, whether it's reading, playing a computer game, processing by myself, watching a movie that I like. One way or another, I need to recover the energy lost. That's introversion. What I am not is shy about who I am and what I believe. I will say what I know to be true to anyone if I believe it strongly enough. Most of my socialization has been a process of coming to grips with when and how to say it. That although I do not enjoy lying and will only do it when it is unavoidable, when the consequences are too extreme for me to handle any other way, I have come to learn the tricks of how not to say something, how to avoid clearly stating what I believe, rather than just coming right out and spelling it out to people. But my first impulse is to do what other people are thinking of doing, is to be the one who just goes out there and says, you're an asshole, and nobody likes you. And although other people might lie about it, that's what most everyone else wants to say. I've been through too many circumstances where I've said it, and other people have said, oh, no, he's totally lying, and then walk up to me afterwards and say, thank you. I know that my intuition is correct, that I have processed the situation appropriately. But most people are too mortified by the consequences to say what they mean, because most people are extroverted. There are very few introverts in the world, and there are very few intuitive introverts. And what that really comes down to is we know what everyone else wants to say through our intuition, and because we're introverted, we don't need other people's acceptance and appreciation to get through in life. We can be by ourselves, and we are not, because of that, afraid of the consequences of social isolation. All we want to be is credible and true to ourselves, and true to what we know is accurate. And one way or another, we will achieve it. Which leads to interesting things. I tend to get hung onto in a group because I'm not afraid to deal with the consequences of saying what everyone else needs me to say. So I tend to be the one in the group who just spells out very clearly, everyone's pissed at each other, let's talk about it. I fill that role very well, and it's one I feel very comfortable with. It's 30 seconds over the mark, so I'm going to sign off now, and talk to you later.